Hello and welcome to the United Bias. This week I'm joined with Ruben Grenier. Hi Ruben, how are you doing, bud?
Hey, Karen, how's it going? Time to find out if David De Gea is our current number one and future number one, and if Harry Maguire is our future number nine.
Future number 9, yeah, false 9 season coming up. Yeah, so this week, as you may have picked up there, listener, we are doing a squad review of Manchester United, as we stand in June 2023. Of course, we've already lost some players, the likes of Phil Jones, Tuanzebe, all the players that we had on loan, Butland, Weghorst, Sabitzer, to name a few. And so we thought it would be a fun exercise, since Manchester United actually have done nothing in the transfer window, just to, sort of plot the landscape, so to speak, and see what we think are the priorities and how things should shape up. Ready for this?
Yeah, ready for it. I'm still in tears about Phil Jones. I think he's a real loss as a mascot, if nothing else.
Yeah, the man once touted as being potentially the best player ever at United by Ferguson. How poorly that's aged, eh?
Yeah, look, I feel for the guy when you see what his injury actually was, and if you've sort of read up about it, it's pretty much the worst knee injury you could possibly get as a player. And I believe actually I think that's similar to the injury Pogba's got, a meniscus injury.
Is this Hahina related?
Yeah, it might be. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we have any future Pogbas in the squad still.
Okay, let's get into it. Look, the obvious thing is we need a striker. That goes without saying. We're in desperate need of a striker. But there are other positions in it, and I think we can go through from the back up to the striker position to figure out where we stand. So I think let's start with goalkeepers. I mean, as you said, we've lost Butland already. And then let's start with Tom Heaton. Tom Heaton, happy as a backup? We're okay with that?
Yeah, look, I don't have any objections to Heaton as a backup. To be honest, I mean, I think he's, it depends if we're going to have a consistent number one then yeah, I think he fulfills that role fine. I don't see really that we have scope anyway to be going and finding two goalkeepers, let alone or three goalkeepers, even depending if we, ditched everybody in our goalkeeping department.
Surely you're not thinking of ditching 4-time player of the season or David
2-time Golden Glove winner David De Gea.
Or fresh off. Anyway, let's go to next. Dean Henderson, done, right? Like, too disrespectful a couple of years back or the beginning of the season, just has to go, right?
I think so. Look, I mean, it's whether you could even have both Dave and Dean Henderson together in the club. I mean, I think we've seen that didn't work. That there was an Ollie experiment that just didn't go anywhere. And yeah, I think it's definitely his time. And I mean, I think he's an asset that we could feasibly cash in on.
Okay. Yeah, and we need the money, and there's probably clubs like Forest and others willing to pay for him. Okay, on to the big one. And I mean, the risk, you don't want to be flippant about it, but I think we're both firmly in the camp of De Gea is not a keeper of today. Can't play with his feet, doesn't help with build-up, all those things we know. But there's something to be said about loyalty. And there's something, he's been with the club now, a decade. He's multiple-time player of the year, just coming off of Golden Gloves, our most senior player now that Phil Jones has left. Is there a world where we think David De Gea could possibly stay and be our number one?
Look, I mean, I'm definitely loath, to say, okay, we flush or throw Dave out with the bathwater, whatever the metaphor is, because I mean, in part, I think it is important to have guys in your squad that have, actually won things. In particular, the Premier League. He's now that with Phil Jones' departure, the only guy left. We've got nobody else, no more link to the Fergie era, and I don't know. Well, maybe we might say, okay, it's time to actually cut that tether and sort of say, we're not holding on to things just because that was the past, and past glory. So, in that sense, I think there is both value to having somebody with that experience, but maybe it's holding us back. Actually, that kind of sense of loyalty to Dave and what he's achieved for us in the past is actually blinding people and holding us back really in the goalkeeping department. I think that's something you could say. There is one scenario though, which I don't know if you'll guess it, where I do think Dave might be able to stay. And that is if we got a certain South Korean gentleman from the Italian league, Kim Min-jae, to come into the team. Because I think if you had both him and Lisandro Martinez as your centre-back pairing, I think you've got such a strong base there able to sort of distribute long, short, carry the ball, that you might be able to, if you were inclined to skimp in the transfer season, say, okay, let's keep Dave for one last season, although it's a bit tricky because you'd have to give him a whole new contract. But, if you did say try keep Dave, that's maybe the scenario where he could stick around.
I thought you were going to say, I don't know, Ten Hag mandates paella as the daily lunch or something, and Dave needs to cook for the team or something.
We know Paella Dave does love his rice and seafood, but
yeah, okay. So I mean, that's a flight fancy you've taken there, and by all accounts, he sounds like he might be heading to
yeah, he's Bayern bound, isn't it? Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. But I think he needs to go. I think it's time to go.
Look, I'm okay with that. As I say, I have a lot of loyalty and sort of historic sense of, yes, he's our guy. But it's just, we got to do what Ten Hag wants. We have to actually put a team out there that lets Ten Hag play the Ten Hag way.
Okay,
it's time.
To get gone.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've only got a backup goalkeeper in the squad.
Tom Heaton, number 1.
Yeah.
Massive upgrade.
Yeah. So a little bit of a concern there. We need to obviously buy number 1 here in this scenario and another backup goalkeeper. Either someone ready to come through the youth system or, get a Lee Grant or another one of these veteran goalkeepers to come in. Okay, let's move along to defense. Luke Shaw, left back, fantastic.
Yeah, look, Luke Shaw he earned that Shawberto Carlos nickname absolutely this season. The one criticism I could have with him, because, we've seen he's a fantastic ball carrier, especially, but, and he obviously holds some really good positions out wide. He's part of the reason that, when we're historically left-wing FC, is just because he does pair really well with Rashford and is really excellent going forward. But somehow he doesn't put up a lot of numbers and goals and assists, and I think that's probably something that, maybe a factor this season, the fact that he played a lot of centre-back. But, I do wish to see more goal creation from him, goal scoring sometimes.
Yeah, of course it depends on the role that he's set out to play and Ten Hag wants him to play. And, the way we've been playing, it's been like give it to Rashford and Rashford's been smashing it in. It's been all Rashford FC for the last season, right? Between Rashford and Bruno, they seem to do everything in the team. So it's I wonder how much that is a factor when you've got the two of them who just seem to do everything and it almost demand the ball and everyone around them gravitates towards the two of them. But it doesn't matter to me. I'm not as worried about or concerned about his numbers. The reality is the build-up play, he gets the attacks going between him and Martinez often, and that's good enough for me. We look much better when he's playing in that left-back role. So, yeah.
But credit to him for filling in the way he did at centre-back. And, he's done it in some important games as well. So, no, look.
It's bizarre, right?
Yeah.
Like no one saw that coming. I couldn't believe it the first time. I was like, what the hell is Ten Hag? It's like a crazy Van Gaal thing where he's playing everyone out of position. That's, took me back.
It shows you, though, how committed he is to, on the right side of defence, a right footer, left side, have a left footer. The fact that he would literally stick Luke Shaw in there is kind of quite impressive commitment.
I think he was just committed to not playing Harry Maguire. Honestly, I really believe that. Like, he just was like, that guy's a disaster. I'm not getting him in. Because if you remember, later in the season, when Lindelof was there with
exactly,
with Varane,
with a right footer at your left centre back,
he was fine.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Anyway, onto Martinez, the next of our dynamic duo in the back line. Lisandro Martinez, delighted, wonderful first season. What more can you say about the guy?
Yeah, look, and he proved Jamie Carragher wrong for sure, didn't he?
Yeah, the short kings out there, rejoice.
Man, it's a real handicap. Imagine playing in the Premier League as a 4'3" central defender.
It's incredible. It really is incredible. We joke about it, but honestly, when we signed him as well, I was concerned. I thought, wow, I'm used to, Rios and Jaap Stams and Pallisters, these big, bruisers.
Yeah.
These bruisers, they can brawl with you, but they can also do other finesse things. So naturally, I think, it was okay to have a bit of concern about him. But wow, he's really proved everyone wrong. He's such a calming influence in defense. The way he takes the ball out of tight spaces, starts the play, starts attacks. Really tremendous player, and he seems like a guy who loves to defend as well. Loves a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. He's Phil Jones, but with Phil Jones with a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer, you could say. And of course, I mean, what's been really impressive, if you look at some of the stats, is how key he is. I mean, a huge percentage of our passing. He's often the player with the highest passes in the team the entire game. You know, he receives the ball, he pings it out. You know, it's a really important role, and I think we saw that when he wasn't in the team.
Absolutely. Okay, on to his partner, Rafael Varane. How would you assess Rafael Varane? It's been 2 seasons, Champions League Varane, big reputation, won it all. You know, lots of injuries, particularly in year 1. Year 2, a lot better. And we have looked sturdy with him and Martinez at the back of defense.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, him and Martinez as a pairing have looked really good. That said, I mean, they have, you know, he's been there at the times when we've taken those absolute hammerings as all this season, shipping 6 goals, 7 goals. He's been around, you know, and so, yeah, look, I think the guy does look good. I do wonder if his best years aren't behind him. I think they probably are. You know, so if we get another year out of him, great. You know, again, I hate to harp on because I guess the ship has sailed. You know, if we upgraded him for Kim Min-jae, it looks very different. You know, it's the same defensive profile as Varane to an extent. You know, a big guy, fairly big physical presence, but with just so much more to offer going forward. You know, I would love that. I'd love to have 2 central defenders that you can trust with the ball at their feet. You know, but is it going to happen? I guess not.
Rafael Varane and David De Gea, same WhatsApp group. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think you definitely can't have both of them in the team, and that's, I think, been a core part of the problem, right? Is that you literally everything is depending on Martinez when you're starting your build-up play, and that's a difficult position to be in. If we got Onana in or one of these guys that's being bandied about, yeah, then we probably can afford to carry him, you know, from that perspective.
Yeah, look, to be clear, he's not terrible. He's not, you know, he's not Wan-Bissaka.
No, exactly. No, he's calm. He doesn't have the level of creativity perhaps as some of those others do.
Yeah. Okay. So but we're fine for another season of Martinez and Varane at centre back.
I can live with it.
Yeah, I think especially if you're getting a good keeper in, we're okay. Okay, on to right back, and this is where it gets interesting. You know, it's a contrasting season with Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. Dalot very much looked, you know, like a man reborn pre-World Cup, looked fantastic. Suddenly the World Cup comes around, he gets injured post-World Cup, and just never looks the same. And in fact, Wan-Bissaka starts the majority of the games post-World Cup.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts here on Mr. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka? And where they fit in the team.
Yeah, look, I think you have to discuss them both together, you know, because I think they're kind of part of the same puzzle piece that we're trying to figure out.
Are they the McFred conundrum after right?
They kind of are the McFred, except they're not on the bloody pitch at the same time all the time, like McFred were in the really dark days. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, as you said, Dalot at some point in the season looked like the answer. You know, we're suddenly going, man, he's banged, I think, 3 goals in a couple of games for United, then turned up for Portugal, did the same thing. And he absolutely went from, you know, I mean, there was a point in time where him and Telles absolutely seemed like, you know, more or less the same thing, a pair of, you know, sort of Iberian wing-backs that weren't really going anywhere in a Man United jersey, but now he looks really good. I think the conundrum is that he offers one thing, Wan-Bissaka offers a different thing, and actually, you need both of those things, really. It's not that Dalot's a bad defender, but he's obviously, you know, he's not going to like absolutely lock down, you know, a sort of ace player in the way that Wan-Bissaka can. Wan-Bissaka obviously really pitched up at the late end of the season, and I think it's changed a lot of our opinions from, I think it's time for him to move on to, you know, he's at least got a role in the squad. That said, I do struggle to see Wan-Bissaka as a starting player, whereas I think Dalot, given time, could potentially show us that that's actually his position. But I still feel like ultimately we want somebody of Luke Shaw's quality on the opposite side. And the problem is you can't really have both of these guys then in the squad at the same time. One of them's got to go. I just don't know which one.
Yeah, I think you're really wrong. Wan-Bissaka is starting quality. Starting for Sean Dyche at Everton quality. You know? But in all seriousness, yeah, like there's no world where Wan-Bissaka is a starting right back on a team that wants to win the Premier League in the year 2023. In the 90s, absolutely. The 2000s even? Yeah, sure. But times have passed. I mean, you can't have a right back that's worse on the ball than right backs from, you know, 20 years ago. And this is what
yeah, I mean, Gary Neville looked better on the ball.
Oh, Gary Neville's fantastic. Criminally underrated, but that's neither here nor there. I think the thing with Wan-Bissaka is he is a good 1v1 defender. he can lock down an elite forward. And that's a useful skill to have. And that's, I think we've alluded to it in the last pod, something that Kyle Walker's evolved into. Doesn't offer City much going forward, but City and England often play him on the right or on the right-hand side of the back three to shut down.
Yeah, like a Rashford or a
a Vinicius or whatever the case is. So you could see a world where Wan-Bissaka, okay, you're on the bench, you're this tool that we'll deploy when we are playing an elite team every now and then, and we want to have you, lock down that side of defense.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like you just can't have him as a starting player. So, I'm at odds. I agree with you. Neither of them, I think, is commensurate quality to be a starting player for Manchester United. However, we know that there are several key priority areas that need to be upgraded. And as such, I think the funds are better spent elsewhere. So I could live with Dalot as a starting player for this season. And, alternating with Wan-Bissaka as the needs team, depends what the team needs at a particular time. But I'm not thrilled about it.
Yeah, look, it's at least we've got two okay players in the position rather than other positions where, as we'll see, we've pretty much got zero,
Okay. So back four is sorted. Shaw, Lisandro, Varane, and Dalot. Then we go to our central defensive midfielder, the man from Brazil, not Fred, Casemiro. Casemiro, interesting season, started like a house on fire, then a couple of red cards.
Although, let's not forget McTominay kept him out the team for about 3 games or something.
He did, yes, the Scottish Casemiro. He had a great season. Up until the red cards, which, really derailed things. He missed, 8 games, I think, in total, give or take. And then the last bit of the season, he looked, I don't know if it was fatigue, he just didn't look himself. But overall, fantastic player. And I think the biggest compliment I can give him was his all-round game. I think it's the closest thing I've seen to Roy Keane.
Absolutely.
I loved Roy Keane. And he was all action for those younger listeners who might not remember. He could do it all. The defensive side of the game, progressive ball carrier, progressive ball passer. He could, score goals. He just did it everything. Captain Marvel, and I know that's what they called Robbo. But for me, my generation, that was Kino, and that's the closest thing I've seen. And Casemiro, if he, doesn't deteriorate with age, let's not forget he's not the youngest. And avoid silly red cards this season. I think, we've got a hell of a player there.
Look, I mean, it's a bizarre thing because, I mean, he has a career record of, I think, 0 red cards, or at least at Madrid he had 0 red cards. He knows how to walk that line, and, you have to think, I mean, were the Premier League referees out to prove some kind of point with him? But yeah, definitely the really impressive part is that it's not just that, he's carried on some kind of sort of attack. Obviously we need the defensive qualities, but it's not that he carried on his attacking qualities from Real Madrid. He suddenly developed them, and it showed us, like, well, what might he have been like if he didn't have to play second fiddle to a Modric pulling the strings in midfield. It's been really impressive. The other great part is he's one of the very few guys in the team that we know can actually head a goal. Several headed goals, several really good attempts at headed goals, and actually an amazing target from a dead ball or free kick position, a real genuine threat, which is, I think something that we bizarrely lack in the rest of our squad. So, look, nailed on starter. Hopefully we get another elite level year out of him, and then we'll have to see from there.
Fantastic. Now the next position comes to, accompanying Mr. Casemiro. Of course, there's the likes of, in the squad, McFred. There's Donny van der Beek, who's going to be fit again. And then there's last year's incumbent, which was Christian Eriksen. Do you see Christian Eriksen starting another year in that, I guess, 8th position next to or just in front of Casemiro?
Look, I mean, I think everybody expected Eriksen to come in as a squad player, right? I mean, that was, everyone said, okay, great backup, nice move, free transfer. And then he really surprised us, playing in a slightly out of position role. Obviously, as we've discussed on a previous episode, played a lot deeper and was actually incredibly good creatively in that position. Really nice long passing range, really be able to spread it wide to both Anthony and Luke Shaw, Rashford. Really good at finding those players. And his assist numbers also really good. And I think the strange thing is he just never looked as good after his injury, tail end of the season when he came back. Just didn't look as good. Obviously, the horror of the FA Cup final, I think, has probably put a lot of us into kind of a worse mind space than we were about Eriksen before. I think pre-injury, a lot of people would have said, yeah, look, it's a great midfield, and we had those crazy stats about when him and Casemiro and Fernandes were the starting midfield, we'd won, 17 out of 19 games or something like that. So, he's certainly impressed me. I think he is probably the kind of guy that you want maybe starting 30% of your games. He runs a lot, actually, surprisingly. He's always got some of the highest numbers for running in a game. But as I think we saw in the FA Cup, he just doesn't have the engine to lock down the midfield as you would kind of need as a second deep-lying player. So, can he come in and do a role against teams that are playing low block or that need to be unlocked? Yeah, sure. Definitely keep him around. But yeah, we need an upgrade at starting position.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you. I think, it's also, as we've pointed out, it's not a position he's a fay with. He's done a good job at it. But there's also a difference between covering distance, and being effective at closing down.
Yeah.
Knowing when to push, when to press, and being mobile. I can run a lot. It doesn't mean that I'm effective in the center of the park at closing down people. So I think they're different traits. And I agree. I think, as you say, keep him when the low blocks are there, when you need to face the Sean Dyche teams of the world, roll him out, roll out the red carpet and have fun with it. So we agree. We need a replacement.
Yeah, we do. So certainly as a regular starter, we need a replacement.
And what kind of profile of player do you think we need?
It depends. It could go one of two ways, because I think Bruno has also shown that he can be effective in a deeper role. I think him and Eriksen can actually play a very similar role, and Bruno is a bit more active in closing down players. Not necessarily the best at it, but certainly a role he can do more effectively than Eriksen. So if we had Bruno playing a deeper role like that, and if we did bring in somebody who is capable at playing more advanced than him, I mean, I hesitate to say Mason Mount, but he's just the person that we've been linked with. Heck, maybe if Donny van der Beek has a renaissance and can fill in at that number 10 role, then we look for, or we just look for a player that can sort of play off and sort of be your final third creative player in the number 10 role. Other than that, I think we need somebody who can sort of carry the ball. If you've got Casemiro, covering it from the more defensive position and is recovering the ball, you need a guy that can kind of play that role, both, carrying the ball forward, finding space. Really the Frankie de Jong role, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's crucial. A ball carrier, which none of them really are. None of our midfielders.
Certainly not in the middle of the park, no. Yeah. McTominay pretends to be, but he's just not that good at it.
I think Fred's the best ball carrier out of the lot, funny enough.
Yeah.
But, he lacks a lot of the other skills. So, a ball carrier that's press resistant. Like the unicorn are guys like, Frankie de Jong, Bellingham's, who can do both, press resistant, can carry the ball, progressive passes. So there's really few of those elite ones in world football.
Sure.
But
look, I mean, Declan Rice could really do the job too, but seems he's headed for other shores.
I think he could be okay, but the jury's still out. I think it's very different playing on a David Moyes team where you're on the back foot and you don't have the ball a lot. So okay. Next up, I guess Bruno Fernandes in the 10 role if we're playing the 4-2-3-1 again. He was amazing, tremendous, arguably his best season for us, I think, even though his numbers don't tie up with that, but he was everywhere.
Yeah, look, I mean, as you know, I will always sing Bruno's praises. It's hard to not be effusive about him. He really is our kind of all-action man. I'm going to have to quickly bring out some stats just because he had some really impressive numbers, on a number of fronts that, for me, say it's actually, he was our player of the season. I know Rashford got the award at the end of the day. I would still say it's Bruno. Number one, he is by a distance our highest if you look at the who scored metrics for average rating per game by quite a long way. He's I think fourth in the entire Premier League behind Haaland, De Bruyne, and Harry Kane. I think that also tells you a lot. Also, it's that he, unlike a lot of players, if you look at your Odegaards, your Mo Salahs, Mo Salah, for attacking sequence involvements, a heck of a lot of shots, but not much else. Rashford, same story. De Bruyne, really great at chance creation, build up, not so much on the shots. Even you look at guys like, Saka, okay, not so great at kind of the final, some of the final third final, or at least final ball creation. Bruno is the highest or near the highest on every single one of those metrics: shots created, chances created, and your kind of link up play. So that's why by a long distance he is your highest attacking sequence involvements in the entire Premier League. It's honestly we live in an era where I think we're taking him slightly for granted, and if we just had the rest of the team up to his standard, we would really be just about all conquering.
I mean, a striker would help, wouldn't it?
Look, man, that guy's owed about 12 assists this season. I really feel bad for him.
Okay, well, fantastic. Congratulations, Bruno. Thumbs up from us. Okay, the next one's pretty easy. Left wing, Marcus Rashford. Nothing to say, 30 goals by day, feeds the kids by night. What a hero. Marcus Rashford's our left winger. Onto the right wing now. This becomes a bit more debatable. Anthony's taken a lot of flack. If you look at, I don't know, forums, social media, I don't know, people don't seem to like Anthony. Yeah. And I can't quite, I'm not sure if they don't like Anthony or they don't like Anthony for the price point. And I think those are two different, discussions. I thought Anthony had a good season. All in all, I expected a little bit more for the price point. But when you see us with Anthony in the team, we look a lot more effective, right? He's able to fulfill Ten Hag's wishes, stretches play. He's very good at pressing. One of the few that can do that effectively, the Ten Hag press, very good at that. So I think he has a key role to play in the team.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I mean, I think he takes a heck of a lot of criticism. His numbers are okay, I guess, if you're just looking at goals and assists. Probably his goal tally is about where you want it to be. You could probably have a few more assists, on that tally. But people really don't appreciate that he does the tactical things so well. It's the stretching play by staying wide and positional discipline. It's the fact that he almost never loses the ball. If he receives it, it's finding a teammate. It may not be necessarily in the best. He might not be taking players on, or he might not be finding the killer pass, but you can absolutely depend he's not going to lose possession. So, could he do better? Yeah, he could. He could score 30 goals like Rashford, coming in off the right hand side as well. He could be our Mo Salah, but I think he's got to be our starter for now.
Okay, and then of course we know number 9's position we need. So based on this, what we've done here, we need a starting centre forward. We need a starting midfielder to play, alongside Casemiro, and we need a keeper. Those are the 3 positions that
those are the non-negotiables, really. Yeah.
Yes. So while there are other areas like right back, for example, that we said would love to upgrade, we don't think the funds will be there. So realistically, we want these 3 positions upgraded.
And I mean, ideally, even we probably need a backup midfielder. And we need a backup striker.
Okay, so let's go through the rest. Let's go through the rest of it. This is very true. Quick fire. Eric Bailly.
Oof, man, I do love his breakdancing, and there's a really great subreddit called Just Bailly things to watch his antics. But yeah, please don't have a brain explosion.
Let's watch him on Reddit. Let's keep him to Reddit. Okay. Brandon Williams.
Look, I mean, we all thought maybe 2 seasons ago when he was even keeping Luke Shaw out or threatening to keep Luke Shaw out of the team that maybe he was going to be, a wow academy product. I think there's some disciplinary issues there. There's been, you hear stories, you see things about, about his rant on Twitter that just says, I don't think that Ten Hag's going to trust him going forward, to be honest. I think it's time to offload him.
It's time to go. Okay. Alex Telles, Europa League winning Alex Telles.
Look, I mean, I think we need to get into we haven't spoken about Malacia yet, but I think honestly between Luke Shaw and Malacia,
you mean Telles and Malacia?
No, sorry. Between Luke Shaw and Malacia, we've probably got it.
You're saying you want to keep Malacia as your backup?
I think he's fine. To be honest, him or Telles could probably do the job. If Telles is happy elsewhere, let him go be happy elsewhere.
I think Telles is terrible, so I'm gonna get rid of Telles, and I think I'm happy with Malacia as a backup.
Yeah, and look, Malacia for really a snip of a transfer fee, I think did his job, admirably.
Okay, Alvaro Fernandez, Portsmouth Young Player of the Year in the Championship. Really good season. Maybe since we've got 2 left backs already in the team, looks promising. Maybe a loan.
Yeah, I think another loan move is good. I'd like to see it probably at at another club, at playing at a higher level, maybe one of a foreign league, but at least not playing a rung or two down. I think he needs to be playing in La Liga, maybe even the Portuguese league, something like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree. Victor Lindelof, strong into the season, showed that he's a capable backup.
He showed that Harry Maguire has been holding him back this whole time.
Yeah, and so we're happy. I mean, definitely keep all and cool under pressure to take penalties.
Yeah, the Iceman. Yeah, no, look, I'm more than happy to have him in and around the squad, and very capable of filling in across the back line.
Harry Maguire. So,
man, Sevilla's gonna keep me scarred for a long time. Yeah, Harry, please go be good at a club that we know he can be good somewhere. It's just not here.
Although, as we point out, a couple of years ago in that Europa League final, we missed him. We were all crying.
Oh, we cried. Yeah, no, look, and I mean, to be honest, I do have a pretty strong feeling that if he'd played that Europa final, Oli got some silverware. But yeah, look, I think, to be honest, I think, is it mental? Is it just overall that he's just reached his peak and now is steadily on the decline? I honestly think it's time to cash in to the extent that we can.
Donny van der Beek.
I'd love for him to have one last shot. If anyone's going to make him something, it's going to be Ten Hag, right?
I mean, I think that's optimistic. I just don't see it. It's been a few seasons. It's been a failed experiment. I think we need the cash. And so I'd rather get rid of him. And
yeah, but what are we going to get to 20 rand and a packet of knickknacks for him? I mean, yeah, I feel like he would probably be worth more if he had an at least credible season with us as a deputy at some point. But yeah, maybe it's time to go.
Okay. I could get behind keeping him as well, but I guess it just depends on the budgets and what's available.
Look, yeah, maybe he needs to get playing time elsewhere. Maybe it's unfair to keep him when we know he's not going to be cracking into the starting team, really.
McFred. So let's deal with them. They are a dynamic duo. Fred, I thought at times last season was really good. And there was a string of performances where he just kept on scoring or assisting for. There was like
it was like a number of games. He's actually got. I mean, he's probably 6th or 7th in our actual total goal contributions across the entire squad. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I think Fred has a role to play. I think as a result, I think he's experienced. He knows how to play with Casemiro. He's got a lot of experience playing alongside him.
Yeah,
he offers something different. Pressing and harrying people in midfield. And I think capable, squad player.
Yeah, look, good Fred is good. I do worry, though, that he's just not actually dependable. I mean, sometimes you do sit there and wonder to yourself, is this guy a professional footballer when you see him literally miscontrol 7, 8, 9, 10 times in a row, and you just don't know which Fred's going to pitch up on the day. I think it's hard as a manager to rely on a guy like that. But that said, when he shuts down a De Bruyne for an entire game, you think, okay, I see it. I see why he's there.
Okay, and that leads us to Scott. International superstar Scott McTominay.
Yeah, can we get Scott, please?
Yeah, we just seen can't stop scoring at international level of late. I mean, obviously young. I think worth a lot more than the likes of Fred and Donny. Would probably have some suitors again. Also being British, there's that allure of him being British and a homegrown quotient. Probably seems. Makes sense for him to let him go and try and get some money out of him.
Yeah, look, I mean, to be honest, he's kind of, the poor man's Fellaini, and Fellaini was the poor man's many things, I suppose. But yeah, I think if we can get, whether it's fleece Everton for 40 million, whatever it is, I do think he's worth a lot more to us in realising cash than he is sitting in our squad. Not aside that he actually managed to weirdly keep Casemiro out of the starting lineup, kind of on merit, but those days are long gone, I think.
Okay, so now interestingly onto these wide right players. You've got Pellistri, Elanga, Ahmad, and I guess technically Sancho. He can play anywhere across the front three, really. I think the simplest one here is to get rid of Elanga. Elanga just not the commensurate quality, right?
Yeah, he's kind of a Jesse Lingard, I guess.
A less talented Jesse.
A less talented Jesse Lingard, and I suppose plays right more than central. But okay. Yeah, I don't see the value to keeping him at this point.
Right, then that leaves us with Pellistri and Ahmad. I just don't think you can keep both of them.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think both of them have a pretty good shot that if we did let them go, they'd go on to do crazy things somewhere else. So it's always one of those tough ones where you feel like you might have regrets down the line. I also worry that if Palestri doesn't get game time this season, if he sticks around, he's out the door. I think this is probably if not already, I think this is the last chance we have to actually make him want to stick around. And I almost feel like if we send him out on loan, he's gonna move on anyway. So it's a tough one because Ahmad, after the season he had for Sunderland, how good he looked, you kind of feel like he's earned his shot. But that said, so is Palestri. I mean, he's looked really good for Uruguay.
Against plumbers of Nicaragua, the plumbers and painters of Nicaragua.
Look, man, you don't get quicker when you play against painters and plumbers.
You do because they're really slow. That's the problem. They're not athletes. They're probably not athletes. That's why you look quick, right? Like I think everyone was gushing over this performance against Nicaragua, and I'm like, guys, it's Nicaragua. It's
Yeah, look, fair point. And look, he has looked neat when he's played for us, right? I mean, in his shorter cameos. But I do sort of find myself going, why is Ten Hag, who sees him training week in, week out, sees him put in these good cameos, not giving him more time? And even in meaningless kind of late season games. I don't know. I'm torn, really. Probably Ahmad on balance, but...
Okay. Ahmad in, Palestri on loan.
Sure.
Okay. Next one up is, easy. Garnacho, breakout season, capable backup. Really happy that we've got someone who looks good to contribute off the bench.
Look, I mean, what you might well ask is he good enough to be the starting on the left and Rashford at 9 in a pinch? Let's say disaster comes, we can't get a striker for less than 150 million. I mean, maybe, but that's it. I also think he's looked better off the bench,
Yeah, it's that old thing of this direct runner coming on, quick,
tired
rapid,
legs,
tired legs,
yeah.
and just charging them on. So and he's got a lot. He's young. Let him develop. But you're right. He gives us an option.
Sure.
The next one up is Jadon Sancho. Obviously, tough few years. Hasn't lived up to expectation. There's been murmurs of interest from Tottenham. I mean, he's just... Where do you stand on Jadon Sancho? I've got some conflicted thoughts about him.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one. I think he's probably... he showed towards the tail end of the season. He had a couple of fairly decent performances, pretty credible. As I recall, he didn't look great in the FA Cup, though, final, but obviously big game, big occasion, etc. So, maybe a little bit premature then for somebody who's just refinding his form. But I think he's shown he can certainly do a job, and what's great is he can do a job across left, central at number 10, even credible performances. He's actually, when Anthony, couldn't play a few, the last couple games of the season, I think he surprised us that actually suddenly people sat up and said, oh, wait, should we have been playing him on the right all this time? That said, I think, sometimes a player does look phenomenal in their youth and then just kind of peters out. So he could be one of those too.
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, the sheer ludicrous numbers he was delivering at Dortmund.
Yeah.
I mean, there were those stats, where it was him and Messi basically goals and assists. It was like
guys with whatever it is, over 15 goals and assists. Yeah. Him and Messi. I mean, look, it helps when you've got Haaland to tuck the goals away or the drive your assists up, right?
Oh, so maybe that's our problem. We don't have Haaland in our team.
Could have had him for 4 million, right? I mean,
okay. So I on the one hand, I'm thinking 2 seasons of failure. There's clearly been some issues, maybe some mental health issues. Seems to be the murmurs going around. So feel for the guy. I feel like the potential is so high, and you see glimpses of it. I want to give him one more chance in the squad. Let him try one more season. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, look, it's probably premature now to get rid of him, unless we got an offer that really made us sit up and go, hey, we can actually recover some value and plug some other holes in our squad. But yeah, I mean, look, guys have off seasons as well. Look at Rashford. Like 5 goals and 1 assist the season before, a 30-goal season. You might do a Rashford season. Who knows?
Absolutely. Okay, so Ted and Mengi. Basically now we've got the 2 starting centre-backs and we've got Lindelof as a reserve with Maguire going out. I think Ted and Mengi is an easy one to keep as a reserve centre-back. And we'd still need another one to come in to replace Harry Maguire. Yeah,
look, the logic's there. I mean, I know he hasn't had a ton of game time under Ten Hag, but obviously, we have had, notionally a fair amount of centre-backs and Martinez has been pretty ever-present. But yeah, I see the logic behind, needing him as the squad option.
Yeah, and at 21 years old, homegrown, young kid, lots of potential. Let's see,
Yeah, look, it's tough at that age to break through as a centre back. I unfortunately I think his game time is restricted, so a loan might help him, but we probably need the numbers.
Not everyone's a Rio Ferdinand, at that age that you just dominate. Okay, next one up is Shola Shiratire. Still young, loan, pretty.
Yeah, look, he's been in and around the first team. He's got some game time. I don't think he's not shown anything that makes you wildly jump up and down and go, yeah, this guy, better be playing. So I think a loan's probably the best move there.
Okay, then Hannibal.
Look, I know there was a fair amount of excitement about him in more junior ranks. Again, one of those where Ten Hag certainly had a good look at him. Hasn't done a heck of a lot. I think he'd benefit more, again, from a loan, yeah.
Agreed. And then Kobe Manu. Came through, very young age, broken into the first team. Ten Hag seems to like him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's sticking around, right?
Yeah, I think he will be sticking around. He certainly looked pretty composed in the performances he has played. That said, I do feel, and look, I mean, you can't blame a guy, at his age and kind of just coming into the team, and especially in a sort of central midfield role where you can truly have a properly disastrous game compared to, other positions. I think he was playing within himself a bit. I think he was, fairly deliberately not being particularly adventurous. So I think we probably will still, the more game time he gets, I think the more of the real Kobe Manu I think we'll see.
Okay, and lastly, Anthony Martial. I mean, it's been a long time.
I mean, he came from France. The English press said he had no chance.
50 million down the drain.
Tony Marshall scored not very many this season.
Yes. So, I mean, I know a lot of people are frustrated with Tony Marshall. Is it time to go?
Look, I feel like it is. This might be the last time we can get any vague kind of value out of him on a transfer. I think he's shown us that he just can't be, not even, I don't think even the main striker, because when we had Wout Weghorst having to play our primary number 9 role, he still wasn't available. He literally just cannot string 4 or 5 games together even, and that's just, again, you talk about what can the manager depend on, and I just don't see that you as Erik ten Hag can realistically depend on a player like that. I think if his wages can be freed up, he's on relatively high wages. If we can get some kind of recovery on a fee from him, goodness knows who's going to actually spend money on him. I just don't know what role he's playing in the squad.
While I share a lot of the sentiments that you have, I think the problem is, if you look at the players we've kept so far, there's no striker. As actual 0 strikers. And while Martial, I guess technically for me, not really a striker either. He's more of a striker than
he's a wide player that decided he wanted to be a striker.
Yeah, and so I feel like he needs to be kept, just because there's going to be a role for him. There's going to be a role as a backup, and we'll need him. We're going to need him because we're not going to sign more than 2 strikers. We'll be lucky to get 2 strikers as it is anyway. So I think there's a role for him, and I think based on that, we have to keep him.
I see it, but I mean, the man's also a pretty surly presence on the bench, right? I mean, he sulks. I don't think he's a particularly good influence on the squad. But yeah, look, maybe your logic is sound. I mean, maybe we actually do desperately need, just people to fill the ranks at this point.
Yeah, sometimes you just need bodies.
Yeah. Oh, man, he also lost his pace. That's the worst part of it. But anyway, that's what injuries will do.
Yeah, he literally, after he got the latest rounds of injuries, he hasn't been able to run.
Yeah.
Like, he just stopped running this season. And obviously, it's not out of choice. It's obviously a preservation, and it's from the medical team advice to sort of preserve him. So it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. So that leaves us with 20 players in the squad that we've decided to keep. To reiterate, our starting players, we have Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Dalot, Casemiro, Fernandes, Rashford, Antony. So we would need to buy a starting keeper, a midfielder, and a striker to complement the first 11 to round it off. Then on the bench, we've got Heaton, Wan-Bissaka, Eriksen, Malacia, Lindelof, Fred, Ahmad, Garnacho, Sancho, Mengi, Martial, Menu. We'll need 2 keepers. So in addition to the starting keeper, we're going to need another backup keeper. We're going to need another centre back. We're going to need another backup striker. So there's a lot. There's a lot that's required in the squad.
Yeah.
So quite substantial investment needed. But I feel like this is a fair reflection where we think the team is and how it can be improved upon.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of it's going to depend on who of our fairly sizable sell pile we actually do manage to move on. There's not a lot of players there who are going to realize a lot of value. I mean, obviously Maguire might get a decent fee. McTominay possibly. I don't think really many of those other players are even going to fetch 10 million sitting in that. De Gea, unfortunately, if he leaves, is on a free. So he frees up a lot of wages, but no transfer fee there. So it's going to be a tough transfer window. I think keeper, striker come in if they're the right ones. Could still be it could still be a decent window.
All right, and on that, I think we've wrapped up here, wrapping it up here. Thanks very much, listener, for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed this breakdown. It's something different, a different show for us. A breakdown on the Manchester United, a review on the squad and where we think it's going. If you enjoy this content, do let us know. And please remember to like and subscribe to the pod wherever you listen to good podcasts, and follow us on social media. And with that, we're out.